Today I'm going to be talking about Godless? No, I don't think so. Well, I scanned that article that I talked about in Cal Thomas's column last week. I found another statement in this article, and what it said was that Islamic extremists believe that Western culture is godless and decadent. Well, if one looks at the figures about how many churches have closed due to lack of attendance in Western Europe and in the United States, you can begin to understand why they call us godless. According to Bethany Blankley, who writes for the Washington Times, Sweden alone has lost about 1 million Protestant churches in the last recent years. Of Britain's 47,000 churches, many are close to closing. The Catholic Church in Germany closed 515 churches in the past 10 years. In Holland, of the 1,600 Catholic churches in existence now, only 500 will be around in 10 years. Mosques, on the other hand, have increased greatly. They've moved into that vacuum. Conservative Judaism, though, has stayed about the same in Europe. There are a lot of churches in the United States that are going to follow exactly the same pattern because guess what? 51% of our population says they're not affiliated with any church. The greater half of the population of the United States isn't affiliated at all. Now, some estimate between 8,000 and 10,000 churches are just going to close this year in the United States. Only about 20% of the population in this country are in churches on an average Sunday morning. Everybody else is sleeping in or doing something else fun, something they enjoy. I always thought that maybe Roanoke, Virginia was the buckle on the Bible Belt, but it isn't. Mississippi has the highest number of churchgoers in the United States, followed by Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Tennessee, and, of course, Utah, because of their large devout Mormon population. It's in the South. The South has their churches to a greater degree filled on Sunday morning than any other state in the Union. Virginia? It's about moderate. It has moderate church attendance. But mainline denominations all over the country are declining in attendance. Now, when you think about that and you look through the eyes of a Muslim who faces Mecca and kneels down, puts his forehead on the ground, and prays 5 times a day, the Western world probably looks pretty godless. Really. But, of course, how things look can be very different from how they really are. Who knows where their minds are while they bend over and mumble their prayers? Really? Are they there? Are they thinking about? Who knows? On the other hand, even if somebody doesn't attend church, that doesn't mean they don't believe in God. There are lots of good folks who believe in God who don't go to church. And even if they're not believers, if they are atheists, they could be still very highly principled people who are deeply concerned about their fellow man, animals, the environment, people in need in our own country and around the world. Actually, the people in the United States are the most charitable in the whole world. And that includes atheists, agnostics, churchgoers, non-attendees, and the full spectrum of attitudes about religion. I don't know if Bill Gates goes to church. I don't know if he's an attendee. But my goodness, the good that man has done in our world. Hmm. Uh, this has troubled lots and lots of people, this non-attendance of church, and there have been many groups and individuals who've tried to figure out why they're not coming to church and how to get them back in there. Some say that conservative denominations have discouraged attendance because of their very stern teachings on hell, damnation, and God's judgment. Churches in the past certainly made people feel more guilty and more fearful, but now a lot of people are rejecting that message. Certain churches advertise that they welcome everybody, but the message doesn't seem to have gotten down to all of their congregants, because that doesn't always happen. And a lot of people, younger people, don't go to church because they have no interest in being scolded for 20 minutes for being a sinner. Maybe those are some of the reasons. Divine science, however, says the truth is that we are all sinners. Yeah, but not in the usual sense of the word. Webster defines sin this way: the voluntary or willful departure of an individual from a custom prescribed by divine law, divine command, or society in general. Moral depravity, wickedness, iniquity. Divine science, on the other hand, defines sin as a term in archery, which it is, and that it means missing the bullseye, missing the mark. In other words, making a mistake. Actually, human beings were all structured to learn by making mistakes. We learn to do anything well by doing it very badly and continuing and getting better and better and better until we do it well. And that covers the board, whether it's walking when we're babies, or talking, or feeding ourselves, or reading, writing, arithmetic, learning a skill, learning a profession, learning a language, on and on. Our brains are constructed to learn through trial and error behavior. Because we make mistakes doesn't mean that we are bad or sinful, certainly in the traditional meaning of the word. And hopefully we have learned and learned better as we go along, as we make these mistakes. And as far as offending God, why would he be offended if we act and learn in the way he created us to act and learn? Makes no sense to me. You're not offended. I recently read an article about a man who has profoundly changed the lives of many men who have really made a mistake in society's eyes. In his daily life, this man, John Wareham, who is a psychologist and an author of a number of books, coaches some of the world's perhaps most successful and financially wealthy people. But for the past 18 years, he has spent his free time volunteering at prisons in New York, like Rikers Island. He teaches a 13-week literature course to inmates, and it's found consistently that after these inmates have taken this class and they have served their time, there is almost a 0% recidivism rate. They just don't come back. They have been changed by this course that he teaches. And the course consists of readings by Plato, on Plato and Aristotle and Freud, the Bible, Buddhist holy books, and many other books as well. And interestingly, students are required to give weekly presentations on how what they read might have fit in their own lives, how they could utilize some of these ideas. But that's not so much what changes them. What's revolutionary, but not to us in divine science. What's revolutionary is Wareham's approach to them. He doesn't say they've done something very bad and they've made bad choices in the past. In fact, he tells them exactly the opposite. Let me read this. He tells them that they are innocent, that their eyes hadn't yet been opened to the possibilities the world has to offer them. And I go on, in the moment of your crime, you made the only choice available to you. You could see no other options. And so, effectively, you were a victim of your own unconscious. You might think you made a choice, but that was an illusion. In other words, this man is changing their view of themselves. He opens their eyes to a basic goodness within them, to the numerous possible opportunities and choices that lie ahead of them, and the option that they can live a vastly different and much more successful, much happier life. Now, that's what I believe people should hear when they walk into church on Sunday mornings. That's what we teach in this church. And the truth is that everyone does make mistakes on a regular basis. Paul made them, I've made them, you've made them, everybody makes them. But that does not make us sinful or evil. We are basically innocent. If we knew better at that moment, we'd have done better. If we could have put another thought, another feeling into our minds and hearts, we would have. We are finally learning to look beyond life's pressures and fears and to develop a faith and a trust in an invincible God. And as we do, we develop this kind of deep assurance that I'm going to attract the solutions. I'm going to see answers to my problems. I'm going to see positive opportunities, and that's what happens. Many of us, previous to hearing about these teachings, regularly felt fear and despair. In divine science, we learn about God's nature, which is all good, good within, good around, good everywhere present. And we begin to have some experiences in seeing this good. We might have never seen it before. It might have been invisible to us, but all of a sudden we begin to see it. There it is, good, here and there and there. And what has provided it? This universal spirit, this spirit of love, God. Yes, we sometimes choose unwisely, no question. Unwise choices, however, bring negative outcomes, and generally we learn that, I'm not going to do that again, not going there again, unless we find that our beliefs about ourselves are totally wrong. That's the proviso. We learn through our experiences, except when we're programmed not to. I know women who repeatedly have chosen partners who were abusive and alcoholic, time after time. Negative outcomes did not change their choices because their role models, their self-image, wasn't based on the belief that they were a powerful child of God with options, with the right for good, that God was always available to them, that he would always help. They didn't have that in their heads. And that is true of anyone who follows a self-destructive path. They don't know the immediacy, the love, the help of God. If they had the opportunity to absorb the truth that we truly are God's image, We have within us power and wisdom and peace. We have understanding, eternal life, goodness, knowledge, unlimited creativity. Their eyes would become open to the wealth of blessings that are already around them and that are available to them now and in the future. But it takes the opportunity to hear this truth, both inwardly and outwardly. And it takes effort, too, because not only do you have to hear it, you have to internalize it. You have to make it part of your ongoing thinking. What all people really want, whether they are aware of it or not, is to know the truth of themselves, the truth of their eternal nature, and they want a relationship with this infinite source, this power greater than they. They want it, whether it happens to be in a church or outside the church, in nature, somewhere, somehow. They want it. What we emphasize in our church is that we are always and have always been very good, just as it says in Genesis. That's the truth of our eternal nature, goodness, right action. We were designed to experience, we were entitled to goodness, and God's goodness can be found in our lives throughout, if we have the eyes to see. We can come gradually to know his reliability firsthand. We can develop the belief that everything really is all right, even though it doesn't look that way right now. We can come to know that God's delays are not God's denials, and that if your prayers answered by a definite no, it just means that something better awaits you. I hope that some of you might have had the opportunity, made the opportunity to try the idea I talked about last week, and that was, I reminded you that Jesus called God Abba. And when you translate the word Abba in Aramaic, it translates beloved. But Jesus was calling God his beloved all the time. I hope you tried using the word beloved when you turned to God in prayer this last week. I have found somehow within myself that addressing God that way is really so wonderful. It just, I don't know, it changes everything. I think it's a real opportunity, a tool, a path to a more vibrant relationship with God. You call him beloved, and you begin to remember all the good he's done for you, all the good he's doing for you right now, as well as the past, and all the good that he is doing through you to help other people. When you don't know what to do, for instance, just say, beloved. You know, he knows the answer. He knows the answer to your unspoken question, and he will respond. He will. Call him beloved, and you will feel his love, and you'll feel a greater love for him than you have before. It's worth the effort. Are we godless people, as some Muslims believe? No, I don't think so. Not at all. First of all, it's impossible to indefinitely ignore a divine, omnipresent force that's the core of your very being. It's like trying to ignore the elephant in the room. It may be formal religion in the West that's undergoing a transition, perhaps a transition from less outward to more inward worship. We don't know. Time will tell. But of one thing we may be absolutely sure, and that is that whatever unfolds will be very good, because that's what we are, and that's what God is, because that is reflection of our nature and God's.